All praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakah Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Shalom to the elect of the nation of Israel. I'm going to be talking about how the story of Exodus is against Esau, man. All right, the story in the book of Exodus condemns Esau. All right, it condemns Esau's spirit, and the reason why I'm saying that is because there's a thing out there called the Slave Bible, right? And what this Bible contains, or what it doesn't contain anyway, is this, the way how it goes is the way I've heard it be said when you look it up, right? Is that 90% of the Old Testament has been taken out, right? And 50% of the New Testament has been taken out, which I find it amazing now because a lot of the verses that these Christians now try and use to try and make salvation be for everybody are the same verses that they used to use, or are the same verses that they took out of the Bible to try and make salvation not be for us, right? They used to try and take our book, take things out of our book and hide it so that salvation couldn't be sounding like it's for us. But these are now some of the same verses that they want to try and use and claim that have got significance for them, which shows that they don't know how to use the Bible properly, because if they did, they wouldn't have needed to take out things out of the Bible, right? And I'm going to read this here from history.com, and it says the so-called slave Bible told of Joseph's enslavement, but left out the parts where Moses led the Israelites to freedom. Now, there's a reason why they took out that, right? Because they knew who the Israelites were, and they knew exactly who it was that they had in slavery, right? They took it out, man. They took it out of the Bible, right? They took it out, man, because they knew that if Israelites read that would stir something up in them, man, because they understand and they know about prophecies in the Bible. They understand, man. They've read the Bible. These Edomites have read the Bible, man. So when they had to have read the Bible to know what to take out, it was like, nah, we can't have them reading that bit. And that's why even still slaves was being killed. Israelite slaves was being killed for reading. Never mind reading the Bible. They used to kill Israelites for reading in general, man. They didn't want them to be reading. They didn't want them to know how to read, because if they know how to read, then they can end up reading the Bible. And they didn't want them to have freedom to teach the Bible, right? They wanted them to teach what they told them. And that's why if you look it up, if you go on the internet and you look up the secret religion of the slaves, right? If you just look up that phrase, man, secret religion of the slaves, you will see that there's stories about how when the Israelites was in slavery, right, that they would be like, man, we're tired of hearing what the slave masters are telling us that's in this book. And they would sneak off to and have their own secret lessons, man. They would sneak off and have their own secret lessons where they taught more real things that was in the Bible, so that the message of what's real in the Bible would get spread, man. And examples of that kind of stuff would have been like people like Nat Turner that ended up reading the Bible and realizing, man, fuck these devils. Let me carry on reading this. It says, the so-called slave Bible told of Joseph's enslavement, but left out the parts where Moses led the Israelites to freedom. When slavery was legal, its proponents often justified it with the Bible, specifically a verse that tells servants to obey their master. So this Edomite, man, the story of Exodus condemns them, man, because if it didn't condemn them, they would have kept it in there and they would have read that to try and keep us in further slavery, right? So for all you jakes out there that you want to say, oh, the Bible, this is the white man's book, well, why would he have to take things out of it then? Why would there be things in the book that he can't allow us to read? If it's a book that he's got to try and keep us in slavery, why would he have had to take things out of it then? It doesn't make any sense. Why would he keep something, if he literally made the book to keep us in slavery, wouldn't everything in the book be able to be used to keep us in slavery? Wouldn't he have designed the book and wrote the word in such a way that everything within there keeps us in slavery? Wouldn't that be the way how the book would go? Instead of it being a thing where he's written the book and there's things in there that he has to take out in order to make it be more where he can keep us in slavery and to manipulate our minds. The story of Exodus condemns Esau, man, right? It's against him because it speaks about an oppressor getting jacked up, man, for harming the Israelites. And Esau He's going exactly the same way as them. Esau's going exactly the same route as what Pharaoh went, man. He is the new Pharaoh. He's the new oppressor being sent over to bother the Israelites, man, to torment them. Exodus chapter 4 and verse 21. And Yahweh said unto Moses, when thou goest to return into Egypt, see that thou do all those wonders before Pharaoh, which I have put in thine hand. But I will harden his heart, that he shall not let the people go. So Yahweh already knew Pharaoh ain't gonna let you go when I just show you these. Put your hand into your bosom and take it out, and your hand turns as the other flesh. He ain't gonna let you go based off that. He ain't gonna let you go based off you turning a serpent. I mean, a rod into a serpent. That's not enough. I'm gonna have to do something real heavy on this Egyptian demon, right? On these Egyptian bug outs. I'm gonna have to do something real harsh on them for them to let you go. Exodus chapter 6 and verse 6. Wherefore say unto the children of Israel, I am Yahweh, and I will bring you out from under the burdens of the Egyptians, and I will rid you out of their bondage, and I will redeem you with a stretched out arm and with great judgment. So Yahweh wanted to bring heavy judgments on them, man. He wanted to bring them out. He wanted to make it be a glorious day that they're going to keep the Passover based off, right? Just like how Yahweh right now is making Esau do everything that he's doing, because Yahweh is trying to set up a greater salvation in Egypt even. Now let me get this, Exodus chapter 9 and verse 16. And in very deed for this same cause have I raised thee up, for to show my power in thee, and that my name will be declared for all the earth. So the Egyptians was used so that Yahweh could make a day that the Israelites remember the Lord, right? Which is the Passover. But guess what? Esau is being used for exactly the same thing, right? Romans chapter 9, and I think it's Romans 9 and 16. Romans chapter 9 and verse, I'll start at 16. So then it is not of him that willeth, nor of him that runneth, but of God that showeth mercy. For the scripture saith unto Pharaoh, even for the same purpose have I raised thee up, that I might show my power in thee, and that my name might be declared for all the earth. And that's what I already just read in Exodus 9 and 16. And let me just go up to show it's talking about Esau, Jacob and Esau. Romans chapter 9 and verse 11. For the children being not yet born, neither having done any good or evil, that the purpose of God according to election might stand, not of works, but of him that calleth. It was said unto her, the elder shall serve the younger. As it is written, Jacob have I loved, but Esau have I hated. What shall we say then? Is there unrighteousness with God? God forbid, right? So this is talking about how Esau is the new Pharaoh, right? But then if I just change the word Pharaoh for Esau is the new oppressor of the Israelites, right? Then you'll understand what I'm saying too, right? And there's always been if you want to say a new Pharaoh, right? But I'm just going to say there's always been a new oppressor sent against the Israelites, because part of the Israelites' curses was that somebody would be ruling over them. And when you read when you go into the whole the statue in the book of Daniel, all those people ended up being oppressors. The Babylonians, the Persians and the Medes, right? The Greeks, the Romans, all of them ended up being oppressors to the Israelites, man. Every single one of them, and Esau is an oppressor to the Israelites right now. And that's why he don't like the story of Egypt, man. When Esau hears about the story of Egypt, Esau can't really try and go into the story of Egypt, man. No person living in the land of America, or no person that's descendants were part of the Atlantic slave trade, can try and come around reading the book of Exodus and try and make it like they don't think that same stuff should happen to them, man. Right? They can't do it. Anyone reading the book of Exodus, right, without lying, would know that is a story about if you touch the Israelites, you're going to have to pay. Right? Because God clearly made a separation between the Israelites and the Egyptians in that day. He was giving the Israelites light, and he was giving the Egyptians thick darkness. He was giving the Egyptians death of their firstborn, and he was giving the Israelites life. He was making the Egyptians' crops die. He was making the Israelites' crops be peaceful. No death in them. Right? He was bringing locusts to eat the crops of the Egyptians, but the locust wasn't eating the crops of the Israelites, man. He was making a separation. And he's going to do the same thing again, man. There's gonna come times in the future where you're gonna see Edomites start dying from things that it should seem like everyone's dying from it, that everyone should be dying, but it's not gonna be everyone dying from. It's gonna just be Esau dying, man. Esau and the heathen. Because let's not make no mistakes about it. These heathens have helped, man, in our affliction too. They've helped, man, and they've tried to steal our land too. That's what it goes into in Ezekiel 36th chapter, the first 7 verses. Definitely, it goes into how all these heathens and Idumea have kept the land of Israel, man. Now I said that there's going to be a greater salvation than the one of Egypt, and we prove that. Jeremiah chapter 23 and verse 7. Therefore, behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, that they shall no more say Yahweh liveth, which brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt, but Yahweh liveth, which brought up and which led the seed of the house of Israel out of the north country, and from all countries whither I had driven them, and they shall dwell in their own land. And this new salvation is going to come at the destruction of Esau, man. All right? Esau is going to have to be destroyed for this new salvation to come. Let me get this. 2nd Ezra chapter 6 and verse 9. In fact, let me go up a bit. 2nd Ezra chapter 6 and verse 7. Then answered I and said, what shall be the part in the sunder of times? Or when shall be the end of the first and the beginning of it that followeth? And he said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born of him, Jacob's hand first held the heel of Esau, for Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. Esau is going to be ruling in the end times, and Jacob's going to be the person that comes behind that and ends up being the beginning of what Esau's for is, man. Right? That's what's going to happen, man. Esau don't like the story of Exodus, really, man. Because we can use that, go into that story and show, listen, Pharaoh thought that he had power over the Israelites, but he was chosen to do that long before. And I'm going to show it right now, man. I'm going to show that I can do that with the scriptures right now. Genesis chapter 15 and verse 13. And he said unto Abram, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. So Pharaoh, even though he didn't hear this message, he didn't know about this taking place, man. Yet it still happened, right? Pharaoh didn't have a choice. Pharaoh didn't go out of his own self and say, you know what, I'm going to go and get these. No, he was chosen to do that. Just like how Esau was chosen to sail over to the Americas, put the Israelites in slavery, the tribe of Gad and the other tribes that was over there, and then to come and hunt down the southern kingdom so that he could fulfill prophecy and make there be a place where Judah and Israel were pressed together, right? He reunited both of those tribes together in one land so that they could both pay and suffer in the same land together, man. That's what Esau was used for. Just like how Pharaoh was used to punish the Israelites and to put hardship on them, right? So that Yahweh could show them and begin a relationship with them, right? And show, listen, man, this is the kind of God that I am. Yet even though he did that, the Israelites still went astray. But Yahweh knew that they was going to go astray. He warned Moses, this is a stiff-necked people. They're going to go astray. Here, write this song so that he can read it to them. And that song can be found in Deuteronomy, the 32nd chapter. It pretty much goes into how this is what Israel's going to be like. These Edomites don't really like the Bible, man. Right? These Edomites don't really like the Bible because if they did, right, if they did like the Bible, they wouldn't have took no story of Moses out of there, which led the Israelites to slavery. They wouldn't have took that out there, man. And they took that out there deliberately because they know that that's the greatest salvation of the Israelites. And they know that that's got a whole Passover feast memorial connected to it, man. They know that that's something that the Israelites are supposed to keep throughout all of the generations. And they knew who these people were, who they are. They knew, man. 90% of the Old Testament apparently is taken out of that slave Bible, and 50% of the New. Yet these Christians try and say they love the New Testament now, though. These Edomites try and say they love the New Testament, but they obviously don't, Because if you're taking out 90% of the Old Testament is a hell of a lot, man. They left 10% in there. Now, I ain't too good on maths to know exactly the percentage of the book that would have been left. Like how much percentage of that, of the whole Bible there is, based on like them taking 90% out and 50% out of the new. But I guess if you was to calculate the amount of pages that there is in the Old Testament, right, based on the size of font and all of that, or based on the amount of verses, you could do the maths, right? If you was to calculate how many verses are in the Old Testament and how many verses are in the New Testament, you could find out how many verses are missing, roughly, right? But that's a hell of a lot of the book that's taken out, man. That's easily like a book that's like got like what? Definitely less than 50% of the books is missing. Like at least 50% of that slave Bible, at least 50% of the Bible is missing from the so-called slave Bible, man. Yeah, I thought it's the Edomites' book, man. How is it the white man's book? Why wouldn't he be able to use every single thing in that book to condemn us and to keep us in hard extra slavery if he made that book to put us in slavery? And then when you say this to a 2/3, they ain't got no answer, because really, they just hate the Lord. And they don't want to have any structure to their life. They don't really want the answers for why they're in the situation that they're in. And really, it goes even deeper than that, because it's just that they're blinded, man. Right? They're blinded. Let me see what it says in this. It's what is the slave version of the Bible? Select parts of the Holy Bible for the use of Negro slaves in the British West Indian Islands, sometimes referred to as a slave Bible, is an abbreviated version of the Bible specifically made for teaching a pro-slavery version of Christianity to enslave people in the British West Indies. But I thought it was Esau's book, though. If the Bible was made to oppress the Israelites and to oppress so-called black people, then why would they have had to take anything out, man? If it was a book made for that. That's what some people say, right? But if that's the case, they would have had a whole thing writing, every single writing in there would have been based on keeping you in slavery forever. So you already know that in a lot of that 90% that they took out, they was taking out laws out of there. You already know they was doing that. You already know they was ignoring that you're not supposed to commit adultery when they was sleeping with Israelite men's wives before even the man's got the chance to sleep with his own wife. You know they was taking out the LGBT stuff out there, the LG alphabet and rainbowing doctrines out of there, because you know they was doing a whole bunch of that when they had us in slavery, man. You know Esau was probably still dressing up like a woman, like, and being even a bigger freak, or just as much of a freak as he is now, man. And even trying to push some of that stuff on us. We don't even know the half of what happened in slavery, man. I remember Apostle Tahar, what's it, The Delectable Negro. He brought out that book, The Delectable Negro, about how they was doing cannibalism, man. Like, if you just look at all the stuff that they're doing to these wannabe tough guy rappers right now, they was doing all of that kind of stuff and had that same kind of mindset in slavery, man. When we was in hardcore slavery. Because if they're able to get away with this stuff now with these so-called tough guy rappers, picking them up and putting them on their shoulder and all that stuff, that's crazy as hell, man. Bobby Smurder being picked up on a man's shoulder and that's weird, bro. That's what a man does to a woman after he's just won the championship belt or something like that, man. He'll grab the ring girls and pick them up and put them on his shoulder, or after he's just won a Formula One or something like that, man. The only way a man's supposed to be getting lifted up on your shoulder if you're about to body slam his ass, man. To pick him up high enough to body slam him. Rampage Jackson style or something. But anyway, a lot of people want to try and say, oh, the slave Bible, right? I mean, that the Bible is just the white man's book and all of this. That's not true, man. Because they hate the book of Exodus. The book of Exodus condemns them. The things written in the book of Leviticus condemn them, right? The whole book condemns them. It's against their ways, man. In fact, let me get this. The whole book is against them, man. Our ways and the laws that we was given are against their spirit, man. So how can you say that the Bible's their thing? Wisdom of Solomon chapter 2, right? Wisdom of Solomon chapter 2, and let me start at verse 10. Let us oppress the poor righteous man. Let us not spare the widow, nor reverence the ancient grey hairs of the aged. Let our strength be the law of justice, for that which is feeble is found to be nothing worth. Let us lie in wait for the righteous, because he is not for our turn, and is clean, contrary to our doings. So the laws in the Bible, haven't you people noticed that there's laws in the Bible that these Edomites do not do, that these so-called white people do not do, that they literally are the opposite, complete opposite of the Bible? So how are you going to say that they made that book for us to follow, right? To oppress us, when they don't even want us to fulfill those things? They wouldn't, the same book that you people are trying to say that they made for us to live like, right? If we try and live like how that book says, they're trying to stop us. So how is it a book that they made? It don't make any sense. How is it a book that they made to put us in slavery, when if we started doing Leviticus 20 and 13, they'd have a problem with that? You understand? If we started doing all the laws that are against alphabeting and rainbowing, they'd have a problem with that, because that's what they like to do. So they've made the world be a way that they can be able to be free to be a weirdo like they are. So Esau don't want a world where there's two genders. He wants a world where there's 95 million plus one. There's infinity plus one genders. That's what kind of world that Esau wants, where you can be everything wicked but nothing righteous. Verse 12, let us lie in wait for the righteous, because he is not for our turn, and he is clean, contrary to our doings. And that's the Bible. The Bible is clean, contrary to the doings of Esau, man. He upbraideth us with our offending the law, and objective to our infamy, the transgressions of our education. He professeth to have the knowledge of God, and he calleth himself the child of the Lord. He was made to approve our thoughts, and the laws was given to us so that we can examine this world and be like, well, how you're living is wicked, man. Right? So don't be trying to say that the Bible's Esau's book, because if it was, how comes he had to take things out of it, man? The story of Exodus condemns Esau and condemns what he stands for, man. It's literally a story that shows him an example of what's going to happen to him. But he's going to get it even worse, man, because the Egyptians still exist right now. And thousands of years from now, the Egyptians are still going to exist. But Esau is not going to exist 1,000 years from the moment that he goes into captivity. After 1,000 years after he goes into captivity, that 1,001st year, there ain't going to be no such thing as an Edomite anymore. Good riddance. And if you got a problem with that, well, you got a problem with the Lord. Because the Lord said that's going to happen. And I agree with it, man. Because I want that prophecy to happen, man. The world will be a better place when there's no Edomites left. Verse 15. He is grievous unto us even to behold, for his life is not like other men's. His ways are another fashion. And where did the Israelites get their ways from? The Bible. Where did the laws in the Bible come from? Did they come from Moses? Or did they come from Yahweh? They came from Yahweh, man. And Yahweh gave them to Moses, and Moses wrote them down on stones, man. And they've been passed down, and they've been put on several different ways. They've been wrote on several different methods, to the point where we still have those laws now today. And the day is going to come where them laws are written in the hearts of every Israelite that is alive, and all of those Israelites that are going to be born after that. So every single Israelite's mind is going to be like tablets, man. Every single Israelite's mind are going to be like tablets of stone, that the law is going to be written on those. Verse 16, we are esteemed of him as counterfeits. He abstaineth from our ways as from filthiness. So when we was in slavery under Esau, hardcore slavery, he was able to push a lot of his wicked ways on us. But as we're slowly being turned away from that, we're starting to look at how he lives, and we're like, nah, man, you're a weird freak. We don't want to live like you. And that's an offense to him, because he thinks that his ways are the perfect way. And the more we live the opposite, in opposition to him, the more we're against him. And then there's a scripture on that, and I'm going to go right to it right now. Proverbs chapter 28 and verse 4. They that forsake the law praise the wicked, but such as keep the law contend with them. So the more we read the laws, and the more of them we're keeping, right? Which I'm not trying to push just keeping the law and that means you're righteous, because we know that's not the truth, right? But the more that we push out what the way of life is supposed to be, the more that Esau's way of living is condemned, man, because he claims to be a Christian, right? You got these clowns like Nick Fuentes and all of these guys that want to try and talk about like they're about the Bible. They want to say, oh, the most oppressed thing, the most victimized thing these days is the white Christian male. When have they ever been Christians really and believed in the Bible, man? When? Show me where on the earth that they're living according to the laws of the Bible, really. Show me where, man. Show us where they're doing that. You can't do it, man. Verse 16, where he esteemed them as counterfeits, they're counterfeits, man. They fake to be about the Bible, but they're not really about it. He abstaineth from our ways as from filthiness. He professeth the end of the just to be blessed, and maketh his boast that God is his father. Let us see if his words be true. Let us prove what shall happen in the end of him. And that's why Esau is ultimately going to get tired of hearing Israelites condemn him. And he's going to attack them, right? And he's going to find out that the end is true, right? Just like how after they condemned Yahushua, what happened? There was earthquakes and people saw signs and wonders in the heavens to where it was like, man, this had to have been the son of Yahweh. There was something special about this man. And when they come against the elect of the nation of Israel, they're going to find out that there's something special about them. And they're going to get to see again for the second time, the earth's going to get to see Yahushua again, because he's going to return from where he went, man. Let's get this. Acts chapter 1. Acts chapter 1 and verse 9. And when he had spoken these things, while they beheld, he was taken up, and a cloud received him out of their sight. And while they looked steadfastly toward heaven, as he went up, behold, two men stood by them in white apparel, which said, Ye men of Galilee, why stand ye gazing up into heaven? This same Yahushua, which is taken up from you into heaven, shall come in like manner as ye have seen him go into heaven. So the same way how Yahweh left the earth via chariot after he was resurrected after being crucified, he's going to come back via the same method, man. And the world's going to see him. And the world's going to see a greater exodus than the one that already took place, that they've heard stories about, where some people are like, I don't really believe that happened. I wonder if it did happen. Some people do believe it, some people don't. But the world's going to get to see a new one and a greater one. And then the story of that's going to be getting told, to where that becomes a greater tale than even Exodus. Now, people will still remember the story of Exodus, but they're going to remember as well the salvation from the north country and from everywhere else where the Israelites was gathered. Jeremiah chapter 23 and verse 7. Behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, that they shall no more say Yahweh liveth, which brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt, but Yahweh liveth, which brought up and which led the seed of the house of Israel out of the north country, and from all countries where I had driven them, and they shall dwell in their own land. Right? It's the story of Exodus. Condemns Esau, man. They don't like that story. Because if they did like it, they would have kept it in that so-called slave Bible that they was trying to use to oppress the Israelites, man. Shalom to the elect of the nation of Israel. All praises to Yahweh Basham Yahweh Shai. Shalom to the elect of the nation of Israel.